So before I talk about the second application, or the fourth application in this entire section on applications, um, let me just point out that a lot of these examples applications are actually in the book by Joel Watson. So the mantra is from the same chapter 10 that I did the previous two applications from. Okay. The fourth application is actually from chapter 13 of the Watson book, and this is about contracts and court imposed remedies. Okay. So think about the following context. Think about a context involving two firms. Firm 1 wants to construct a new plant, say, and it's hiring the second firm to do the construction for the firm 1. So suppose a bank wants to build a new branch or a new regional center, okay, and it hires some construction companies, say Larsen and Toubro, to build the new construction, to build the new building. Now the bank will say provide the architectural design of the plant, or this, in this case the regional center, and maybe the center has very specific, the architectural design has very specific demands in terms of specific material to be used. Maybe they want to build a green building or something like that. Okay. So the architecture team of the firm would have to invest in getting the architectural design absolutely right. On the other hand, it expects Larsen and Toubro, the second firm, to also invest in terms of getting the right material, sourcing the right material, and getting the right set of skilled laborers who can actually do the construction part pretty well according to the plan prepared by the architecture team. Okay. So this is a game between the bank and this construction firm, and the idea is that in before they play the game, the before the construction begins, the game is in terms of whether or not to, or to what extent, let's say, invest in their respective acts. So for the bank, it's the investment in getting the architectural design perfect, so that it helps the construction firm to build it properly. And for the construction firm, the choice is whether or not to invest, or to what extent invest in sourcing the right material, and getting the workforce properly trained to do the construction properly. Okay. So before the construction begins, they play this game, this, so they engage in this strategic behavior, where they have to decide whether they want to invest in these activities or not, respective activities or not. Okay. So think about firm 1 and firm 2 playing this following game. So firm 2 has this choice of whether to invest or not. Now we are making this start to sort of convey the basic message, but again, you can think about in terms of extent of investment. Okay. So the firm 2 here, say, we'll consider firm 2 as the bank, and firm 1 as the construction company. So firm 1 similarly can invest or not. Okay. So that's the two pair of strategies. Ideally, they should both invest, right? If the firm, if the bank gets the architectural design perfectly right, and the construction firm sources the right material and gets the skilled labor force, the that's the efficient thing to do. So in that case, both payoff is 8-8. Okay. If the construction firm invests but the bank doesn't, the payoff is -4 and 4. Okay. So let's say the construction firm gets the sources, the material properly, but the architectural design is not up, it's sort of lacking in detail, and the right sort of instruction, etc. So the output is in that case of not as high quality as it would have been. Okay. So both firms payoffs are lower, but in this case the construction firm in payoff is really low. Okay. If it's the other way around, if the architectural design gets pretty well done, but the construction firm doesn't work hard to get the correct material, or get the correct skilled labor force, then say the output is, give me a minute, let me write down the right output. Yeah, it's 10 - 2. And if nobody invests, the payoffs are 0. Okay. Yeah. So this is the game that they play before the construction begins. Okay. Now notice 8-8 is clearly the efficient payoff. Investment is clearly the efficient set of strategies for them to take care. So that's when the sum of payoff is maximum. However, unfortunately, in this case, you see that if firm 1, this is not a Nash equilibrium. So to see why, so consider firm 1 invests, firm 2 then would like to invest, right? Because firm 2's payoff is 8. If it invests, it's -4. If it doesn't, it's 4 if it doesn't, so it's like to invest. However, if firm 2 would like to invest, then firm 1 has an incentive to not invest, because not investing gives firm 1 10 as opposed to 8. So this is not a Nash equilibrium. The Nash equilibrium of this game is given by this: not investing. So if firm 1 and doesn't invest, firm 2 gets -2 if it invests and 0 if it doesn't. So not investing is the best response. If firm 2 doesn't invest, firm 1 gets -4 if it invests and 0 if it doesn't. So not investing is the best response of firm 1. So not invest is the Nash equilibrium of this game. However, investment is clearly the efficient outcome. Okay. So this is a very unfortunate scenario, right? And both firms recognize that. Both firms recognize that they would like to invest in their respective activities, their responsibilities, so that the final construction, when it begins, sort of becomes the best thing that both of them would like to happen. However, at least one of them here has an incentive to not invest as much. Okay. So specifically here, the construction firm would like to sort of defect and not put in so much effort in sourcing the right material, etc., if it thinks that the architectural design will be very well done, so that they can still do a good job and get a higher payoff by saving on the cost of investment. So that's the dilemma. Now, knowing that both firms sort of at least one of the firms may have this incentive to deviate and not invest before the construction begins, so what would they do? Okay. Now, I have talked about one way of thinking about it, how efficiency can be restored is to think about this game being played multiple times. So it could be that maybe the bank, when it opens the next regional center a few years down the line, it would hire the same construction company if it performed well the last time. So there is this reputation concern, etc. So that can sort of restore, incentivize this construction firm not to cheat this time. Okay. So that's sort of one way to think about it, to think about future game inducing some kind of incentive today. The other kind of way to solve this dilemma, solve this incentive problem, is to think about writing down a contract. So one way to solve the problem is to write a contract before the game. What is the idea? The idea is that before this game is played, the two firms jointly write down a contract that is enforceable in the straight in the court of law. So firms 1 and 2 jointly write a contract that is enforceable in the court of law. What is the purpose of this contract? This contract will specify, so suppose they write down this contract that they can take to court, where they'll specify penalties. Penalties. So basically the penalties are of the following form. So for every pair of strategies that is not the efficient one, the contract will say contract will specify rather contract will specify the penalty and its direction of payment. What does it mean? It means that both firms understand they should choose investment, but that's not Nash equilibrium. So what they do is that they write down a contract where they both jointly say that in case we don't choose strategies which is not investment, anything else, so either not investment or investment non-investment or NN, in each of these pair cases, so for every pair of strategies that is not the efficient one, so these are the three, the contract will specify some penalty that one of the parties will pay the other. So it will specify the penalty amount and also the direction of payment, meaning who will pay to whom. Okay. So that's what contract looks like. Contract will say, in case I don't invest, but you invest, then I pay you this amount. If you don't invest, I invest, then you pay me this amount. Okay, and so on. Right? So in once they write down the contract, then they play the game. In case the outcome of the game is not investment, the aggrieved party can take the other party to court and show and say to the court that, see, we wrote down this contract, and I have invested and the other party has not. The contract says the other party should pay me this amount, so please ensure that he pays me this amount, and the court will enforce that contract. Court will ask the other party that, yes, this is correct, and so you should pay him this amount. So it will compel the other party to pay the aggrieved party. Okay, so here are few assumptions here sort of built into this story. What is the first assumption? The first assumption is that we need a third party like court. Okay, so there exists a third party like court, which will enforce some kind of payment in case something else other than investment happens. Okay, so this is a way where you don't sort of instead of thinking about future construction requirements, sort of inducing the firm to have incentivize the firm to choose the investment option, you have a third party. You take sort of recourse of the court or law to ensure that people play the right thing. So that's the first assumption. There is a third party like court to impose fines on people. The second assumption is that the elements of the contract are enforceable, and specifically it is verifiable, right? So verifiability by the court is very important. Verifiability of the conditions written down in the contract. So what we are assuming, apart from the third party existence of a third party, is that there is full verifiability of the conditions specified in the contract. Full verifiability means what? Verifiable means that the court can verify this condition. So in case, say, the construction company does not invest and the bank invests, then the bank can take to the court, take the construction company to the court, and the court is able to verify that it is indeed the case that the construction company hasn't invested properly. So maybe there are documents that actually show that the construction company did not procure the right material specified in the contract. Okay, so that's what it means by verifiability. Full verifiability means all the elements that the court sort of that the contract sort of had specified. The court will able to ex post verify these claims that yes, it is indeed the not investment that is being played, right? So that's what it means, full verifiability. It could be that court could find out that there has been some violation of the contract specification, but maybe the court is not able to establish clearly what was the nature of the violation, and so that will be a case of limited verifiability. So only a certain aspects of the contract will be verifiable, but not all information is verifiable. Okay, so that's a different condition. Right now we are interested in full verifiability, the consequence of assuming full verifiability. So let's assume that court can fully verifiable all the conditions laid out in the contract. Okay, so let's think about a specific contract. So let's think about the case where the firms write down a contract, where if let me go back to the game. If firm 1 doesn't invest, so it's the firm 1 that's the problematic guy, he has this incentive not to invest, and firm 2 invests, in that case firm 1 pays firm 2 3, a payoff of 3. Okay, so let's write down in the contract language. So if firm 1 doesn't invest and firm 2 invest, if this is played after the contract is written. So remember, they're writing the contract before the game is played. So once they write the contract, they play the game and then they see what happened. So if NI is played, then firm 1 pays firm 2 3. Okay, there is no other payment in any other case. So only when for the first firm doesn't invest and the second firm invests, only then firm 1 pays firm 2 3. In any other case, if anything else is played, then there is no payment. Okay, so that's what the contract says, and they both jointly sign on that contract before they play the game. What will be if this is the contract that is played, then it changes the payoff of taking actions, right? Because now in presence of the contract, if NI is played, then firm 1 has to shell out 3 payoff to the other party. Okay, so the payoff structure will now change because of presence of court and the fact that they have written down this contract. So what is the new payoff? Let me write down the new payoff. So firm 2 can invest, not invest, not invest, 8 8. In all other cases it's identical as before. In this case it was 10, so now it will be 7, and the original payoff was -2, so it will be 1, correct? So it will be 1. Now you see that 8 8 investment is a Nash equilibrium. So if 2 plays I, 1 now wants to play I, because it's no longer 10, because in case 1 doesn't invest, there will be a court case and he has to shell out 3. So he better invests now. Okay, and if 1 invests, 2 of course wants to invest. So in presence of contract, in presence of contract and court imposed remedies, these are remedies that are written down in contract and is imposed by the court, is sort of enforced by the court. Court imposed remedies, II is a Nash equilibrium. Okay, so this is the idea, that in presence of a third party who can fully verify all the conditions that the two parties can write down in a contract before they play the game, then the two parties can indeed ensure that the efficient outcome is achieved in Nash equilibrium. Here you may wonder, why would ever the firm one will write down a contract like that, will sign on a contract like that, because otherwise it would have gotten 10. The point is that if he doesn't write down the contract, then both parties know that NN will be played. So indeed, one will not get the pay of 10 because two will not invest, because NN will be the Nash equilibrium if they don't write any contract. Okay, so both parties know that. So firm one knows that firm 2 itself will not invest if they don't write the contract, and the both parties will end up getting 0. So here also firm 1 is interested in writing down a contract that will actually compel the firm to take the initiative and invest in getting the right raw materials, etc. Okay, so both firms have an incentive to sign on such a contract that will compel them to choose the efficient outcome, because both firms will gain out of this. Okay, because in equilibrium, see, nobody is taking anybody to court, because they understand that in presence of a contract with fully verifiable information, they'll not choose the inefficient outcome. They'll choose the efficient outcome. So, but they need this threat of going to court and the presence of penalty written on the contract for them to actually choose the right thing. Okay, so that's sort of an interesting sort of application to think about, where you can apply game theory in understanding how these courts, the presence of courts and contract writing can sort of induce firms to choose the right strategy. In the next video, I'll talk about an extension of this model where we don't have full verifiability, as well as talk generally about this field of research called contract theory. Okay.